Well, now it's time on this latest career video to highlight a Hall of Famer and a worthy Hall of Famer. I had a bit of a spat last year on a channel that I used to respect as a historical based channel until Leo Florian Houck was downgraded and berated on the channel while the channel owner sat there laughing, thinking it was funny, and actually did not challenge the man who was speaking pure ignorance on Leo Houck. So last year I had to, of course, do a response on my channel where I went through his career year by year and highlighted the resume that was downtrodden and spoken on this other channel. So now it comes time, okay, to highlight Leo Houck's career on here, okay, where he will join my retired playlist. Leo Houck had a massive career, over 200 fights. Another thing about Leo Houck is when people, ignorant people, talk about him and apparent historical channels sit there and laugh about it while he's being demeaned, is that he went from flyweight and fought fighters that covered all the divisions to heavyweight. Now, in an era where Manny Pacquiao gets massive credit, as he should deserve, for the work he did going up in weight, Leo Houck, because he lost to a great middleweight fighter, gets downgraded because he didn't win all his fights against a great light heavyweight Hall of Famer. He gets downgraded, even though he came from flyweight. You know, Leo Houck doesn't get that same respect, but he does off me and he does off other people who understand the history of boxing and understand his career. So let us go through Leo Houck's main opponents, okay, starting on slide 1. So Leo Houck, okay, starts out with a 5-fight series, okay, against one of the greatest light heavyweight champions, Jack Dillon, who Leo Houck scored 1 win, suffering 1 loss and fighting 3 draws against. Next up, the dangerous Harry Lewis, okay, Leo Houck fought Harry Lewis, the Hall of Famer, 3 times, winning all 3 fights. And then he also had a trilogy against the strong and hard-punching former lineal middleweight champion Frank Klaus. In that trilogy, Leo Houck scored 1 win with 2 losses and no draws. And then following on from Dillon, he had another 5-fight series with another of the light heavyweight greats, battling Levinsky. From that 5-fight series that Leo Houck edged the series, scoring 3 wins with 2 losses and no draws. He also 4 times defeated a fighter, okay, who could give Harry Greb some difficulty in Greb's earlier career, George Chip. Now, Leo Houck didn't fight any losses or draws against George Chip. He actually won all 4 fights. Now, I've put Jack Dillon there, but it's not Jack Dillon's name it's meant to be, and I couldn't remember who it was, so my apologies. But yeah, he had another trilogy of winning 1, losing 2, and drawing 0. Now, next up, okay, is Bob Mohar. I will put that name in the comment section. But in the sea names, I were looking like, oh God, I can't place it. So next up is Bob Mohar. Leo Houck defeats him in a singular fight, and then he also defeats in a singular fight former middleweight champion Billy Papke. Next up comes another former middleweight champion, Johnny Wilson. Leo Houck fights him twice, scoring 1 win with 1 loss and no draw. And then, okay, Leo Houck fights the great Harry Greb 3 times, okay, suffering 3 defeats. Next up, the great Gene Tunney, okay, Leo Houck fights him twice later in Houck's career, suffers defeats both times. As a former flyweight coming up, fighting the great Gene Tunney, okay, one of the great fighters of his era, apparently he was downgraded because he couldn't beat Gene Tunney. Well, who else did beat Gene Tunney except Harry Greb? See, this is the kind of idiocy that we are dealing with. That where I've put Jack Dillon by mistake is driving me mad, so just give me a second. Okay, let us do a live addressing of that. So let's go to Leo Houck. I'm sorry, it's just going to drive me bananas until I realise who it is. Right, where are we? Yeah. Yes, that's what I've done. The top name is Jack Britton, not Jack Dillon. So he fought Jack Britton 5 times, going 1 win, 1 loss, 3 draws, and he fought the Giant Slayer Jack Dillon at light heavyweight 3 times, going 1 win, 2 loss, no draw. Thank you, you're driving me crazy. So anyway, next up is the St. Paul Phantom, Mike Gibbons. Big shout out to Random in the chat, good to see you, buddy. Leo Houck fought Mike Gibbons on 2 occasions, okay, suffering 2 defeats. He then fought the great Jeff Smith, okay, in a singular fight, fighting to a draw. And Leo Houck closed out this first slide, okay, with a win over the former pound-for-pound rated Jimmy Gardner and the excellent middleweight contender and former pound-for-pound rated fighter at one point, Eddie McGaughty. So my apologies for getting Jack Dillon and Jack Britton mixed up. Yes, they can sound similar from a distance, but yes, the top name on there is Jack Britton. Jack Dillon he fought the trilogy against further down. So that is a mammoth slide. Now, to people who think Leo Houck is not deserving of a place in Hall of Fame, I mean, just looking at this one slide, okay, considering he came from flyweight, he fought one of the top 3 greatest welterweights of all time in my ratings, Jack Dillon 5 times, okay, he beat him. He beat Hall of Famer Hardy Lewis 3 times, beat Frank Klaus, beat Bartlin Levinsky, beat George Chipp, beat Jack Dillon, beat Bob Moore, beat Billy Papke, beat Johnny Wilson, and then also held wins over Jimmy Gardner and Eddie McGaughty. On top of that, he also fought Greb, Tunney, Mike Gibbons. The names go on and on and on. So that is slide 1 for Leo Florian Houck. When we go on to slide 2, okay, we see he fights a trilogy of fights with Tommy O'Keefe, okay, scoring 2 wins with 1 loss and no draw. He then fights 2 fights against the capable Grover Hayes, fighting a win and a draw without any losses to him. And then he fights a trilogy of fights with the very experienced Young Earn, who had an incredible career himself. Now, Young Earn, okay, Leo Houck defeated him twice and fought 1 draw, so suffered no defeats in the trilogy. Leo Houck did lose to former contender Paddy Levin in a singular fight, and then he fought the experienced Young Lowry on 5 occasions, scoring 3 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. Next up is Hall of Fame ballot member Dick Nelson, the Dane. Leo Houck fights him twice, okay, scoring 1 win, no loss and 1 draw. And that's one of the things about Leo Houck, because he came up from pretty much flyweight, what would now be flyweight, and he even fought Gunboat Smith and other heavyweight contenders. So he fought great fighters, okay, like Jack Britton and Hardy Lewis at welterweight. Okay, he had a combined 8 fights against them, scoring 4 wins, beating both of them. Okay, you also look at middleweight, where he fought and beat Papke, okay, he fought winning and losing to Frank Klaus. You go to light heavyweight, okay, where he fought and defeated Jack Dillon and Bartlin Levinsky. You know, light heavyweight and former heavyweight champion Gene Tunney, he fought him. He also fought Hardy Greb, top 2 all-time great. So when you look at his career, he's not only had all these great fights in the lower weight classes, he's fought great fighters across multiple divisions and scored many wins. Now, continuing Leo Houck, sorry, I'm distracting myself. He fought Young Otto, another very capable fighter, scoring a win in a singular fight. He then 3 times from 3 defeated Frank Mantell before also defeating Joe Thomas. Next up, against capable middleweight contender Bud Kraus, Leo Houck had a 5-fight series, scoring 2 wins with 2 losses and 1 draw. And then he scored a singular win over contender Dave Smith before fighting former Hardy Greb opponent Joe Burrell 2 times, scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. Next up is Young Ahern. Okay, Leo Houck fought him 3 times, okay, suffering 3 defeats. And the final 2 names on here, the first is Johnny Howard, whom Leo Houck defeated twice from 2 fights, and then he fought a trilogy against contender Eddie Revoir, scoring 2 wins, 1 loss and no draws. So from slide 2 we go to slide 3 for Leo Houck, his final slide, and he fought twice Al Graber, scoring 1 win and 1 draw from those 2 fights. He also split a trilogy, including 1 win, 1 loss and 1 draw, with the very experienced and travelled Jackie Clark, before also fighting excellent middleweight contender who beat multiple Hall of Famers himself, Jack McCarran. I must have been drunk. On first slide I put at top Jack Dillon instead of Jack Britton, and on this slide I put Jack McCarran. Yeah, but he fought Jack McCarran twice, scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. Next up, former heavyweight contender Willie Meehan. Leo Houck fought him once, scoring a win. He also scored a singular win over KO Willie Loughlin. Before the final 3 fighters he faced, the first was 2 fights against the very tough and experienced Chuck Wiggins. Leo Houck won both fights. He also defeated tough, capable journeyman stroke contender Clay Turner, before also holding a win over former heavyweight contender and former top 5 heavyweight contender Gunboat Smith. So from Leo Houck there, okay, there is 87 fights, if I'm not mistaken. From those, Leo Houck scored 49 wins with 27 losses and 11 draws. And like I said, you know, if you think about Pacquiao, he went from fly where he first titled, he fought at a weight below what would now be fly at one point. But he titled at fly. All of his big fights were ended by light middleweight. Most of Leo Houck's big fights are from welterweight to heavyweight. So he actually did more of his big work in the second half of the divisions than he did in the first. He wasn't fighting all the great featherweights, bantamweights and flyweights and then fought a few fringe names from welterweight and light heavyweight and middleweight. He actually fought most of the big names from welterweight to heavyweight. Incredible considering how many of them he actually defeated. So there is Leo Houck, okay, there's his main career breakdown. So on to his stats. Leo Houck scored 21 knockouts, okay, 12 in 3 rounds or less. Big shout out to Antonio Mosley in the chat. And Leo Houck also scored 1 first round win. Now, not surprising, okay, as a flyweight, he scored no KOs against champions, Hall of Famers or pound for pounders, and he scored no KOs over rated fighters, being a pre-rating era fighter. Leo Houck fought a total of 1,443 career rounds. He fought 0 title fight rounds, and Leo Houck fought totals of 256 rounds against champions, 220 rounds against Hall of Famers, and 268 rounds against pound for pound fighters. And Leo Houck in numbers that are vastly reduced over what they would have been. And you think about all those big names he fought who would have been ring champions or top 5 or top 3 contenders, his numbers would have been very high. But at the reduced totals, he fought 74 rounds against top 10 fighters and 44 rounds against both top 3 rated fighters and ring champions. So from Leo Houck on his first stats there, KOs and rounds boxed, on to his slide against champions. Leo Houck had 32 fights against champions. Now, considering, again, I'm really hitting this point because that live stream where his opposition were mocked, his career were downgraded, and the channel host just laughed and sniggered about it. I'm sorry, but if anyone were on a live stream with me and they downgraded Leo Houck in that manner, I would tear 10 strips off them. And if I'd have been on that live, I'd have torn not only 10 strips off the guy talking the ignoramus stuff, I'd have also then torn 10 strips off the channel owner for allowing one of boxing's great fighters to be downgraded in that way while he found it comical and was sniggering. But Leo Houck beat 9 individual champions, okay? I'm for this to hit my point home, I'm naming the champion and what division they titled in. Jack Burton, welterweight. Hardy Lewis, welterweight. Frank Klaus, middleweight. Bartlin Levinsky, light heavyweight. George Chip, middleweight. Jack Dillon, light heavyweight. Bob Mohar, light heavyweight. Billy Papke, middleweight. Johnny Wilson, middleweight. So he beat 9 champions, okay, from welterweight to light heavyweight. So on to the Hall of Fame category. Of course, he didn't defeat any champions inside the distance. So on to the Hall of Fame category. Okay, Leo Houck had 28 fights against Hall of Famers, including 10 wins, 14 losses, and 4 draws. Now, he defeated 6 individual Hall of Famers. Jack Britton, okay, Harry Lewis, Frank Klaus, Bartlin Levinsky, Jack Dillon, and Billy Papke. And from those 6 Hall of Famers, as shown by his KO stats, he scored 0 knockouts over Hall of Famers individually. So on to the pound for pound slide for Leo Houck. His largest tally, 35 fights against pound for pounders. Leo Houck has a record of 17 wins, 14 losses and 4 draws. And Leo Houck defeated 10 individual pound for pound rated fighters. They were Jack Britton, Harry Lewis, Jimmy Gardner, Frank Klaus, Bartlin Levinsky, George Chip, Jack Dillon, Bob Mohar, Billy Papke and Eddie McGaughty. Leo Houck, of course, scored no knockouts over pound for pounders individually. But Leo Houck beat a lot of quality fighters across a lot of divisions. Also incredible is not that he was fighting Jack Britton once, he fought him 5 times, win 1, lost 3 draws. He didn't fight Levinsky once, he fought him 5 times, scoring 3 wins with 2 losses. He fought and lost 3 times to Ali Greb. Not only did he come from flying, we're fighting all these great welterweights to heavyweights, he was also having fight series against them, scoring a large number of wins in there as well. He of course didn't defeat the heavyweight champion. He fought Gene Tunney, but much later in Leo Houck's career, when he was actually, towards the end of his career, I'm not surprised he couldn't beat the up and coming, Gene Tunney. Only Harry Greb did, and he only won one of the 5, even though he could have got 2 more wins out of 5, but that's a story for another time. I've spoken it many times. Antonio Mosley, the people who discredit Leo Houck are people who don't know jack about his career. Absolutely, Antonio couldn't have said it better. So, he just offended me that, because I won't allow Leo Houck to be downtrodden. I wouldn't allow someone to come on one of my live streams and downgrade Jack Britton or Sam Langford or anyone like that without challenging them on it. So, there's Leo Houck, okay, he's Champions Hall of Famers, pound for pounders. So, going on to his rated opponent slide, of course, ratings came in at the end of his career, so Leo Houck, not surprisingly, doesn't have as many fights against rated opponents as he would have, and a number of those are defeats he suffered later in his career. So, he had 8 fights against top 10 fighters in reduced numbers, scoring 1 win, 6 loss, 1 draw. He had 5 straight losses against top 3 rated fighters and 5 straight losses against ring champions, and he scored a win over 1 rated fighter individually, again in reduced numbers, and he scored knockouts over 0 individual rated fighters. So Leo Houck, okay, this is another tragedy of his career. This great fighter who fought fighters, from flyweight to who campaigned from flyweight to heavyweight. He fought fighters who titled from welterweight to heavyweight. Never even got a title shot of his own, despite all that effort, all those fights and fight series. And one thing about Leo Houck, he wouldn't throw a jab and run around the ring fighting big fighters. He was game. He would actually go in and fight you on the inside. Despite the fact he was outsized a lot of the time, he would go inside and fight him, try and push him back, try and hook with him. He was not a fearful fighter. He didn't do a Lara against Canelo, throw a jab and then run around ring for 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and then throw 3 punches at end of round, say, yeah, I won round. He actually would fight them, so big credit to him for that as well. Now, Leo Houck, of course, had no title fights, therefore 0-0-0 in title record. In fact, the whole slide is zeros. So, on to titles won. Leo Houck, with no title wins, he was never awarded a belt, so he captured or held no world titles, no lineal titles, and no undisputed titles. So, my apologies for ranting on a bit about defending Leo Houck in this video, like I would defend any legitimate Hall of Famer who gets downtrodden by ignorant people. I will defend them. I did that on my old channel when I did a big video defending Leo Houck and highlighting his real career, not the ignorant comments that were coming out of certain people on YouTube or the channels sniggering and laughing hosting them. But I wanted to do a proper portrayal of Leo Houck's career and highlight that he did beat Jack Dillon before Jack Dillon became light heavyweight champion, that he did beat George Chipp before George Chipp then went on to be champion, just to explode the myth that Leo Houck was fighting a lot of shot fighters and fighters who were past it. He actually fought a lot of fighters in the primes as well, like Harry Lewis, Frank Klaus, etc, etc, etc. So great fighter, worthy Hall of Famer. If I've always said, if someone like Leo Houck can't get in Hall of Fame, then you've got to take 90% of them Hall of Famers and kick them out of there. Simple as that. Because his resume and fighting across all those weights, with all the wins he scored against Hall of Famers from welterweight to heavyweight, is incredible, and he deserves all the credit in the world, even if he did lose a number of them. He was fighting many great fighters, and you're not going to win them all. So there is the video on Leo Florian Houck. My apologies for putting Jack Dillon at the top of the first slide instead of Jack Britton. I read it out, and when I got to Dillon, I thought, yeah, he did fight Dillon 3 times, because he bet him, but then he lost 2 to him. So I'm like, So I had to do a live check on that, just to write that live on the video. I could actually do that in future as well. Everything's at my fingertips. So there's a great Leo Florian Houck. Big shout out to Random. Big shout out to Antonio Mosley. Close to 80 wins. How many can say that? Yeah. Well, incredible fighter, yeah. I admire all fighters like him. It's like Frank Klaus, a fighter I've mentioned on this video, Leo Houck won and lost against. People rubbish him. And when you actually study Frank Klaus Okay, he was a stocky, powerful fighter. He was a very hard puncher, very strong. He'd come forward and bore into you, wearing you down, hitting you with very heavy hooks. Very good body puncher. A very hard fighter to discourage. You know, when you talk about a fighter like that and you look at Frank Klaus's career and you see all the Hall of Famers he beat and you see the composition, these fighters were great fighters. The fact that some people now in modern time choose to be ignorant, and I don't mean ignorant in a slanderous way. Ignorance means you don't know something. Clearly, people who downtrod fighters like Leo Houck, like Jack Britton, like Frank Klaus are clearly ignorant to the careers and need to do more research. Okay, that's all I'll say. And to the channels that laugh and snigger while they're doing it, you're idiots. Plain and simple. Anyway, I'm out for now.